Thank you very much for the invitation, because that was the beginning of why I'm here. And secondly, of course, I like people who like culture and cultures, because this distinguish human beings from other beings. And so many reasons to not only speak, but work for culture. T.S. Eliot said, economy is necessity, we need our daily bread. But culture comes to at the top of hierarchy. Culture makes our life worth living. There are so many different but very strong advocations or defenses why culture matters. Because the values matter most, and they express our cultural being. Culture, and the core of the term is cult. It means something what we value most, what we seek for, what we are collecting, what we believe in. And then we see the people, what kind of culture they develop in their lives, in their families, in their communities, in their countries. And I always seen, being either national or European representative, European Union as a community of cultures. Because culture defines Europe much more than geography or business or European coins, currency. Even I don't have all Slovak currencies, the coins, because we are Eurozone country. There are three basic portraits, national portraits. It's Bratislava Castle. It's one of the marvelous mountains of Slovakia, and Double Cross. So three sort of dimensions of our identity, or our heritage, our realities: natural, cultural, and spiritual. And this is botschaft, this is message from Slovakia to the Union, and from the Union to the world, because we are part of a small and big world. So Europe is much more community of democracies and community of cultures than business space or geographic landscape only. And I selected a topic which is relatively simple but very demanding: unity in diversity. Whether it's dilemma, problem, or an invitation, challenge, the answer, the definition. And I think this is the second. Unity in diversity is the best narrative for Europe. It's not a problem, it's Europe. If we lose diversity, we become melting pot, or kind of averageness result. Europe is interesting just because it's diverse, and at the same time it's one. It's now not fully whole, one, united, but it's free, and I think that it's our ambition to continue with the process as we celebrated just now Dobrodošlicu, or Croatia's accession to the Union. Enlargement made Union more European. Union now is more European because it's not geography. We need to complete the mission. We need to complete the family. And so many issues I would like to say in short, but I will try to be sort of structured and understandable. Narrative, unity in diversity, resembles two sides of one coin. One-sided coin is a fake. It doesn't work. There were many attempts to make Europe united. Napoleon, Hitler, Stalin, or others, questing for unity. without diversity. Diversity without unity could be an chaotic or anarchic or conflictual reality. This narrative, unity or united in diversity, is both assuring and ambitious. It's assuring because European Union respects exceptional richness of nations, regions, cultures. So we assure that diversity is not a problem. There are so many languages, even alphabets now. Secondly, it's ambitious because diversity doesn't mean division, a problem or conflict. But diversity means rather respect and acceptance. And actually it enables unity. This is the only real base for peace, a reconciliation, cooperation, and integration. This was maybe unimaginable. Now we have a reality called European Union for more than 50 years. It may disappear, it may fall apart, but this is a result of a struggle for diversity and unity at the same time. I can say, or we can say, richness of our diversity is structural element of our unity. So it's like to have a bricks in order to build blocks or walls and to have a house. So we need these elements, structural elements, for our common European house. And I see, and I would love to promote European Union as a well-organized community of cultures. Well-organized community of cultures, where base means harmony of values, and one of the primary or the first among many values is human dignity. Dignity of everybody, everywhere, all the time. We are all different, but we are all equal. Everybody is original, authentic, different, but we all are equal in dignity. And I think that here at this moment, at this set of values and hierarchy of values, with dignity on the first place, we may not only cooperate but agree, whether we are Christian Democrats or secular humanists or other sort of democratically and humanistically educated or thinking people. And that's why it may work, it works, and I hope it will. Human dignity is objective and criterion of culture. And that's why culture is so important. And I see different phenomena as functions of culture. For example, politics results from cultural thinking. Sport, art, these are functions of culture. So if there is a problem in politics, we should look to culture. Why? What is there? What kind of thinking? What values are combined in culture if politics is violent, oppressive, simplified, populistic, extremist? Culture is characterized by value and positioning of human person in society. Culture is how person, how community, nation reflects or understands itself, and about human relations inside and outside community, ad intra and ad extra. Romans used to say, nemo dat quod non habet. Nobody gives what he or she does not possess. We can give only what we have. And that's something very important in cultural terms. I am an engineer by original profession, and I like to speak about culture. Because even for engineering you need culture. For wine you need culture, it's called viticulture. For food production there is agriculture. Culture is important. Because culture is creative. Culture is a dynamic process. One of the most important contribution to cultural behavior is education. The process where human family transfers habits, values, traditions, knowledge, and develops further. So that's why I think that quality of education in full sense of the term is heavily, decisively important for our cultural evolution. Culture creates, not consumes. I'm sorry that many either politicians or people usually see it as opposite. We need something, some budget or money for culture. Culture is a creative process. And usually when we look to budgets, there are numbers but also tendencies. We may guess how country or region or community of countries respect culture, cultural cooperation, exchanges, openness, cultural heritage. That's why I proposed and we declared 2009, which is over, but there are so many important messages from 2009 as European Year of Creativity and Innovation. From each crisis in the history and today, there is a way out or way down. From crisis to deeper crisis, or from crisis upwards to the normal road, to the new stage of evolution. And the answer is innovation. Are we able to innovate? It means to do something in better shape, in more efficient way, for less money doing more. It's not miracle, it's not a fairy tale, it's innovation. So creativity and innovation are is linked together, and we tried via this special European year to say people, hey, look, if we want to be more competitive, if we want to be better off, if we want to be stronger in the world, which is more and more global, we need to be more creative and innovative. Europe may stand all pressures of globalization if it is more innovative. European Union, a post-war phenomenon, is political innovation. Schuman brought innovation to the place where millions of graves and bloody borders were shaped or renewed or re-established. EU is innovation per se. Without this, it wouldn't work. Only balance of powers or hegemony of some, or I don't know what. EU is innovative political project. I think that this is important now when you open the news or Google on computer, there is crisis jumping up from every second item. Crisis and crisis, financial, economic, political. The answer is to respect principles and values, because this is something like a base, and innovate, to improve, to do something better than we did 10 years ago or 5 years ago or before the bubbles disappeared on the markets. Innovations speak about modernizing instruments, systems, attitudes, mechanisms. I put 3 items on industrial innovations or revolutions: steam machine, electricity, and internet. So there are so many innovative mechanisms or technologies, but the question is what they serve for, what kind of purpose they serve to. Whether it's armament, waging wars, or more human world. And you know the history, when all these industrial machineries have been used rather for negative interests. I believe the 21st century, our century, may be better time. The condition is Yes, if it will be more human and there will be more solidarity. So more solidarity and more humanity is precondition to have better time than we had in 20th century. And there is internet, and there is, of course, electricity. There are so many machines or technology behind. The question is, what is the purpose of our policies? What we stand for? What is the object and subject for our culture? Do we promote human dignity of all or just some, everywhere in the world, only in the immediate neighborhood? From this framework, I would also like to mention that there were notions of different sort of societies. For example, I think President Emil Constantinescu mentioned information and knowledge society at our previous meeting, and it's true. I was commissioner when I started with Prodi for INFSO, Information Society and Enterprise, with Erkki Liikanen, Finnish colleague. INFSO, Information Society. It's not definitely over, but now we speak about knowledge society, where knowledge is very important, more important condition for jobs and future jobs. It's true, it's important. Knowledge society is a good ambition, but it's not absolute. What is more than information society or knowledge society is a wise society, where both information and knowledge is used wisely. Because even those who have been working for Lehman Brothers have been quite informed, skilled, hard-working speculators or criminals. Information only is not enough. Knowledge only is not enough. Many criminals are well-educated people. So what is decisive is really value orientation of our actions, of our thinking, of our doing. That's why I say 21st century may be better if there is more humanity and more solidarity. Not more information or skills only. And this leads us to shared awareness and shared responsibility. Awareness of togetherness, that together we are stronger. Enlarged union is more capable, I'm sure. And I say not only because I'm from Slovakia. I'm sure that 27 or 28 members means stronger union. If we care, if we believe that those values defined in the treaties are really our values, not only for Sundays or Saturdays or holidays, but for everyday responsibilities. And if we are aware that together, Mazi, Insieme, Ensemble, we are Europe, then we share a responsibility. If I feel here at home, I care how Brussels look like. If I'm only tourist somewhere, I come and live and finito. To feel at home means decisive moment of responsibility. We are citizens, at least those who are even citizens, are here not as tourists. It means something. And this affiliation to feel like at home, être chez soi, means for Europe more than we probably are ready to understand today. Not foreigners, but citizens in Brussels. Europe is in the hands of its citizens, and that was not the case 60 years ago, or 70, or 100, or this is a different responsibility. So in order to confirm that culture creates, not consumes, we need to boost creative industries. Creative industries in Europe are, in statistical terms, which means economic terms, are more productive than many traditional. in total, for example, more than food and some sectors of chemical industry. When we counted several years ago contribution of creative industries, this was surprisingly high number in GDP and jobs. I think mentality for startups, for starting new businesses, thinking small first, SMEs as important space of employment and innovations. Because growth, which is frequently mentioned at summits, is really connected to competitiveness and to entrepreneurship. And both are challenges for Europe today. When we look to Fortune 500, most of companies successful established in time of recession. So why I mention? Because in critical time, in crisis, usually we lay the base for future. Either we go up or even to deeper crisis and then conflicts and something worse. And I'm happy that at least some contributions now are there. We have established, I was there 2008, European Institute for Innovations and Technology, EIT. We spoke decades about MIT, IIT, Indian Institute of Technology, or Massachusetts. Now Europe has this sort of cooperation. Next year on, we will have, from April, valid or active EU patent, or the instrument for protection and promotion of intellectual property. Why I underline it? Because Europe is small, and if it is superpower, then it's cultural superpower. Europe is strong in diversity. Some people say it's weakness. I think it makes Europe Europe, and culturally, if there is superpower, it's Europe. More than 50% of world tourism is oriented towards Europe. It's not about beaches only or swimming pools. It is about cultural richness, heritage, attractiveness. Each 100 or 200 kilometers you find different region, different dialect, language, traditions. That's a mosaic. So we need to keep in balance both diversity and unity in order to promote actually both. Without balance, it will not work. And the last, not least, to mention how to continue if there are so many problems, how to believe that culture is more important than we usually think. I think we need to switch or to shift our mentality or descriptions from multiculti into interculture. Multiculti, pell-mell descriptions of problems living together, living aside each other or parallel communities, into more intercultural communication, intercultural relations. Today we have, since Monday, 24 official languages, 3 alphabets. One would say very easily and very quickly, it's bubble tower. How can we afford, or how can we live in such variety? It's a problem. I think it's not a bubble tower. Bubble tower may be in one family, in one small village where people use one language, in one company, if dignity of all is not respected, if speculations prevail over responsibilities, if freedom is misused, not connected with responsibilities, etc. Robert Schuman, in his small book, Pour l'Europe, says culture cannot be object of harmonization. So just after war, and I think very rightly and wisely expressed, culture cannot and should not be harmonized, or we cannot have a kind of common policy on this matter. We need and we have cooperation where both diversity and our common identity or one large community is promoted at the same time. We have declared and we organized hundreds of activities during 2008, if you recall, European Year of Intercultural Dialogue. This was so inspirational that similar activities were organized on American continents or Asia, Australia, and I was happy to see that this is something where also other continents are interested and follow kind of European inspiration or European proposal. I think we need to go on in this because dialogue is enriching. Dialogue, as I think Mark said, starts with listening. 2 ears and 1 mouth. Dialogue brings more than just mathematics. 1 + 1 is 2 in mathematics. 1 + 1 in dialogue is more than 2. There is added value. There is new knowledge. There is understanding, at least reflection or exchange. So ethically, dialogue is enriching. It takes time. It takes a lot of energy. But we need to promote culture of dialogue. Not dialogue as exceptional, ceremonial, festive occasion, but dialogue as a rule, a standard, where people meet, where people live together, in companies or workplaces, in schools, streets, cities. Paul Ricoeur, French theologian, Protestant theologian, said, "La chemin le plus court de moi, à moi, c'est l'autre." If I want to go to my inner self or deepest self, I need somebody else. I need a mirror to find myself. We need somebody to find ourselves. So dialogue is an instrument to find ourselves, even for really selfish reason, which is not selfish, but self-esteem. We need somebody to find ourselves. That's it. I spoke to 4 Chinese universities when I was Commissioner of Education, and we promoted Erasmus Mundus. And you are maybe also Erasmus students or some. There is new generation called Erasmus generation. 3 million young people. They have their families already and kids of Erasmus marriages. So Erasmus became a very popular and famous trademark of European education, inspired by Erasmus Desiderius Rotterdamus. So we are returning where we have been, or to the time when Europe promoted education, valued education. So we are returning to the authentic knowledge when Europe established the ancient universities. Why now best universities are not in Europe? Why mobility of football players is so easy that you do it in 24 hours, but to get professor and recognition of diploma or credits, that's a story. So in football we are great because mobility, quality is recognized, promoted. In education, it's a problem. It's a small comparison, a very important recipe. We need to organize not only mobility, but transfer of knowledge, cooperation in using knowledge for better time, better world. I mention it because in China, I found out that more Chinese students now come to Europe than to United States. It's a good signal. Erasmus Mundus is a better project, better program than Fulbright program. So we move, it takes time. And now in the new financial perspective, I agreed last week, there is Erasmus for all, with billions of euro for mobility on different levels of education and scales of intensity. So I'm happy that Europe is returning to the most important issues for future of Europe and future of the world. Because values we are speaking about are not European, they are universal. And the world needs the same paradigm. The world needs the same two-sided coin, diversity and or diversity in unity. And Europe can be a bearer and protagonist, a laboratory of this answer or realities. In China, I never heard during the 2 visits for universities anybody quoting Mao Zedong. Nobody quoted Mao, great Mao, you know. There is one portrait only in the city. There were so many in the past that Mao was everywhere. Now only one single portrait in Beijing. And they quote Confucius. And they quote harmony in differences. And they compare Confucian harmony in differences with European unity in diversity. And they like European approach because it's not oppressive. It's not something about dominance. It's about offer, invitation. And Europe, which is offering, is Europe attractive. And that's soft power. And that's decisive power for future. And I wanted to sort of wrap up by mentioning 3 books. Because after Annus Mirabilis, after 1989, I think that the 3 are worthy to mention. 1 or 2 have been mentioned. I think President Constantinescu mentioned Huntington, Professor Samuel Huntington, about Clash of Civilizations. This was one approach showing that dividing lines are there, and sooner or later we come to necessary clashes of civilizations. The other one, speaking about more prospecting future, coming with the collapse of communism, totalitarian system, which was global actually, worldwide, was Francis Fukuyama. End of History, the book titled End of History. It means liberal democracy is winning, and sooner or later it will definitely win. I think with the rise of terrorism, one can say there is something wrong with this perception, and it's not so quick or not so automatic, or there are so many and even growing conflicts that we cannot speak about a liberal democracy winning all over the world. Why I mention it? Because there were always conflicts in the human history. The question is where we are, or what kind of world we promote. Because if there is any dividing line, it goes through our conscience. It goes through human self, human being. Either we recognize and respect dignity of all, or we serve to some false ideals or interests. And the answer of this sort is given by others or many, and I put there the name of small or smallest book from Amos Oz, How to Cure a Fanatic. How to Cure a Fanatic speaks that there are always many examples of human fanaticism, secular, religious, ideological, ethnic, political. And either we keep the space for fanatics and fanaticism, or we eliminate the space via education, culture, dialogue, cooperation, people-to-people communication. And this is the most important message I wanted to say at this event or meeting or symposium, that cultural cooperation, cultural diplomacy, cultural awareness, cultural education should help us to eliminate space for fanatics, and then there will be less phenomena of terrorism or this sort of events we believe belong to the past or not to the civilized society. The answer to Huntington is not clash, but more civilization is needed. And to Fukuyama, each generation has to pass the tests of its maturity. It's not done forever, once forever, European integration forever, peace forever. Each consecutive generation has to prove what we stand for. And here I want to say that European Union, should stay as a protagonist of democracy, as a cradle of democracy and protagonist of democracy. This is European legacy. Democracy, international law, Olympic idea, university. So legacy or heritage of Europe is great, but was not so respected or great in terms of 20th century. Area of hope. Why not hope for Balkan countries? Yes, Croatia is not the last. We need to go on. We need to continue. The values I mentioned, a narrative I also mentioned at the beginning, is universal. If First World War started in the city of Sarajevo, then we need to come back with the peace and cooperation and togetherness and community of shared values. Because the First World War was revenged by the second. Second was after a break, a revenge for the first. And the Third World War, Cold War, was a continuation of a divided and division from the Second World War, Yalta. You remember, you cannot remember, but you should know. So 3 world wars from Europe, and I think our responsibility is to bring the reconciliation back to Sarajevo. It's not symbolism. Sarajevo is called European Jerusalem. Again, it's not symbolism. It's there. This diversity is there in one small or medium small city. And that's why I said, and I stay with message, enlarged union is more European. And I'm happy that there are people, not only from Europe, who care about this message or commitment, because it's our universal message and universal commitment. Thank you very much.